Time for some Silent Ascension 5. And we get a couple of interesting choices here. I'm going to go with probably the Cursed Pearl. We have an early shop here, which is nice. I do like Lost Coffer, and I thought about Lead Paperweight, but yeah, I'm going to go with Greedy play here, because greed tends to pay off if you play your cards right. Haha, I wonder how many times I can make that joke in a single video. So a couple notes here before we get into things. This is going to be a post-game commentary. I will tell you that Ascension 5 definitely starts ramping up the difficulty. And I found on Ironclad that I think I lost 3 times before getting a win on Ascension 5. It was just getting crushed here. So yeah, it was kind of difficult. This is, by the way, this is the Wing Charm, and definitely something I'm taking here. I've never played it before. And it seems really awesome to have Swift 1 on card rewards. And definitely Footwork and some other cards you'll see chosen here very shortly are going to make this run much easier already here on floor 3, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so difficulty ramps up around Ascension 5 for sure. That Ascender's Bane really starts to kill the consistency of your deck. And even though you only draw it once, it really does add a big difficulty factor. And of course, I'm starting out with this run with 2 curses, even better, Greed. Can't remove it either, but I'm hopeful that I can do some sly stuff. That was kind of the goal with picking the Greed here. But because it's so difficult, it's kind of hard to be playing and commentating while you play, at least for me. For 2 reasons. One, it will take forever. The runs will take just literally a half hour longer if I kind of explain myself, my thought process. So this will make quicker videos, and I think that'll be more watchable for most people, more enjoyable, most likely. And instead of watching me and losing my voice every time I play too, we can be more efficient. And what is efficient for me is ultimately good for the viewer if you like the videos. So speaking of which, have you liked any of my videos? Click the thumbs up. Right? I was supposed to say that at some point. But yeah, we're going on to Ascension A5 here for Silent, and my thought process on this character is Silent seems the strongest of all the characters. Sly, very strong. The developers just recently mentioned that in the beta branch update, and we are playing on the latest beta update here, so they fixed Prepared back to be like what it used to be. Ooh, we get a Chandelier, by the way, which is a fantastic relic. And when they fixed Prepared, they just brought it back to what it used to be. And they changed it briefly to discard 2 and give you 1 energy on the next turn. Something like that. I don't remember what it was upgraded. But now it's back to draw 1, discard 1. And obviously with some Sly cards, that is super powerful. And you'll see that throughout this run. Spoiler alert, I posted it so I win the run. It is very much a discard-based deck. And it was a lot of fun to pilot this deck as it builds out. And you can really get a feel for just how strong Silent can be when you play this way. Especially because with this early Footwork and Tactician in particular, and this Ricochet, by the way, we'll talk about this in a minute, they're just very strong cards that snowball. And, already taken Bygone Effigy down pretty significantly on this second turn was a good sign. Now, I knew I was going to take damage on this fight anyway. This guy is just pretty brutal to go up against. I think for me, he's the hardest of the elites. I've heard others say that Verdanus is the hardest. Jorbs in particular, I think, will say that Verdanus is tougher. But for whatever reason, I struggle a little bit more with this guy. And they changed Skulking Colony recently. So Skulking Colony is no longer scary at all. Basically, you're just got to be able to block for a little bit. And you can't do that much burst damage anyway. So if you have a good even block versus attack deck, you're in pretty good shape with the Skulking Colony fight. Frog Parasite can still also be pretty tough depending on how quick your deck is and how well you set up the burst for phase 1 into phase 2. But yeah, Bygone Effigy just doesn't give you a break once he starts going. But obviously, he gives you 2 full turns to set up as best you can. But the thing is, I don't find myself having a lot of powers early on. We get a blur with the Swift. That is amazing. That relic, by the way, that little wing relic, wing charm, I think it was called, is pretty amazing. It encourages cards to be taken early on. Then we're followed up with a horn cleat and a cloak clasp, which now we're just like super heavy defense, and it's pretty amazing. We've got 237 gold going into the second shop, and I can't remember if this was... No, this is an actual shop, not a question mark. A lot of options here. Nostalgia is a card that I keep thinking about, but I'm not sure I like it that much. It doesn't seem nearly as good as something like Replay. So we're just going to grab a couple cards. We get a well-laid plans. We remove a strike. And dodge and roll is a consideration, but not unless we had a lot more decks, which right now we don't. I mean, I guess with the deck spot we do, but right now it's not that much. So yeah, Ricochet. I wanted to talk about Ricochet. Ricochet is basically Riddle with Holes, if you remember that card from the original Spire. And it's good. It's just like with Sly, hitting something that many times is very powerful. Now, of course, if you get something like a Vajra Relic where you get +1 strength, or Rouge where you get +1 strength after the third turn, that card gets significantly better for nothing really changing, just 1 strength, because it attacks so many times. So I actually didn't think I was going to play that card at all. And this is the first run where I've ever even taken Ricochet. And I have to say, it performed better than I expected. And of course, you have to remember that later in the game, cards like this can get better. Because you can get things like Bellows that upgrade your first hand. Ooh, we get another prepared, this time with Swift. Very nice. Shadow Meld gets offered multiple times, by the way, but I just don't need it because there's so much block. And yeah, anyway, Ricochet, it gets better. It gets better with if you can enchant it with Sharp, or the double damage, or, you know, there's a whole bunch of enchants that make cards like that really weren't that exciting in Spire 1 unless you had a very particular build going on. Like, I very rarely ever took Riddle with Holes. And now I'm like, oh, this is a card I see myself taking frequently on Silent. It's just, Sly is very, very strong. Now, of course, to build Sly, you need a couple of things to go in your favor. Number one, you need discard cards, and you need Sly cards offered in some mix that actually evens out a little bit, right? Because if you get all Sly cards, but you can't play any of them, it doesn't do you very much good, because they're expensive on average. But if you have too many discard cards, like, well, then you're just not, like, if you had all prepared, you're not doing anything. You're not doing any damage. And that's, yeah, you've just got to really plan through the cards that you add to the deck. And for the most part, you know, I avoid Shivs and Poison here because they just don't really fit with the archetype. Now, this is an interesting pick. I ended up going with Dash just because I'm realizing, like, I don't have much damage. And we're up against Birdanis this time. I'm a little concerned. I'm like, I don't know. This could be a tough fight. We definitely seem to have really good burst on the first go-through of the deck because of the Swift and how much Sly that we have. But what happens is the second time through the deck, it slows down damage dramatically because we're just not able to discard as many cards, right? Like, if you get multiple prepareds, you're net -1 card for an unupgraded prepared every time you play it. Actually, this case, it's actually net even because unupgraded, it still draws an Thorn with Swift, which, by the way, happens after you finish playing it. But if you look here, like, if I play this prepared, we're just down a card to 3 now from 4. This one goes from 3 to 3 because, again, we have the benefit of the Swift enchantment. But yeah, you can see it already slowing down pretty quickly here, and now all of a sudden I have a ton of defend cards, which is fine. I mean, this is especially with footwork, it's a totally fine place to be. But these fights start taking longer and longer and longer. And Haze isn't that good. Haze doesn't do all that much when what you're trying to, like, 4 to all seems great, and it is. it's like half of a crippling cloud, if you remember that card from Spire 1. But it just doesn't get you over the line once it's no longer drawing other cards. So, like, if you're playing it for free, great. If not, you know, slow. Okay, well-laid plans, Piercing Wail, or another Footwork. We're going up against Vantham. Piercing Wail could be good against Vantham because of, you know, the multi-attack that he does. But Footwork's just OP, as always. And I'm finding that having solid block in this game seems more important than, like, any other stat. If you were looking at, like, my Regent games, which I recently lost a lot in a row on the final boss. Like, I got to the final boss 3 times in a row and lost 2 out of the 3. So, kind of painful, if you ask me. But it's because I seem to lack block on that character. Also, I'm finding that I'm adding too many cards in a lot of these decks. I think part of that's driven by the fact that there's so many new cards to try, and every time I look at a card, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good card. We should get that. And then you end up with literally 50 card decks before you shatter mirrored into 100. And it's not very productive on certain characters. I think on certain characters, a bloated deck is totally fine. And even on Regent, you know, there's a place and time for a big deck like that. But because of that, you know, you're finding, or I'm finding myself having inefficient decks towards the end bosses. Now, this boss in particular, the slippery mechanic's kind of annoying, but as you're seeing here, especially now that we've got 3 defensive relics in a row, including the Sturdy Clamp, which is awesome. That is an awesome relic. I didn't realize just how good it was until I got it, and I was like, oh, starting almost every turn when you have 7 decks, 5 usually, I play the deck spot obviously, is very strong. And you always keep 10 block going into turns like this for the most part. And I'm look at this. I'm over blocking, and I start the next turn with 10 block thanks to Sturdy Clamp. But again, why is this fight taking so long? Maybe I'll edit all this out now that I'm watching, going like, we're just going to fast forward this fight. Because it's not worth watching. You know you're going to win. Again, we're blocking for 64. But it's just exhausting. It's exhausting to play through that. And anyway, it was a choice. It was a safe choice. It was just mentally taxing. Actually, like, going through it wasn't really mentally taxing. But like at the end, I just remember thinking, wow, that took way too long. Anyway, we get offered Fan of Knives, Shadow Step again. Or no, this first Shadow Step. The other one was Shadow Meld. And Murder, which I've never played before. Deal 1 and deal 1 additional for every card you draw, which I didn't know at the time, but apparently that does include every card that you naturally draw. Like, every card that you draw, not cards that you draw based on cards with card draw, to confuse you as much as possible with that sentence. It just, every card that goes into your hand adds to the damage. And even though it costs 3, Chandelier helps a lot, by the way, on turn 3. You're already drawing minimally, you're doing 11 with that card, 12, 13. Minimally, you're doing 13 with that card by that point because of Ring of Snake. And I ended up really liking that card. Right, so Murder already does 7 on turn 1, so it's a 3-cost strike. But by turn 2, yeah, it just keeps getting better and better. Now this guy is the like one of my least favorite common enemies, or regular enemies, I guess you would say, with the whole stealing card mechanic. But it is what it is, I guess. It's interesting. It's a play on the thieves that stole gold, obviously, but you know what? I take that back. The more I think about it, I do like the mechanic because it can also serve as a card remove, which I didn't realize at first, by the way. Cloak Clasp coming in big, by the way. doing work. And, oh, there's Murder. 20 damage. Not bad. That's pretty solid. So it does end up being a cool mechanic, but I always seem to find it taking cards that I actually want because it focuses on uncommons for whatever reason and not rares, which is weird, but also kind of cool, I guess, in how it works. Anyway, this fight is surprisingly close every time. Well, not every time, but often when I do it. And I'm like, oh man, am I going to get him this time? I don't think he's actually gotten away with a card that I've played him yet, but for whatever reason, it always feels on edge. And I wonder if late Ascension, I'm only on Ascension 5 here in this run, maybe late Ascensions, you get one less turn to get your card back. That would be sad because I would most definitely lose cards. I have seen this animation above his head too many times. It would definitely happen on occasion. But yeah, you know what? This time he would get away. But we're just not going to let that happen. We're going to use our fire pod. I didn't talk about it yet, but we had Pale earlier. We get our blur back. I took Pale's Wing, which we'll talk about in a second. Because we could sacrifice a card here, but I'm getting really nice damage cards all of a sudden. Predator being good, but you know that Swift isn't actually that good because it happens on the turn that I play it, and it's a cost card. So it's unlikely I'm going to be able to play whatever that card is, unless they get lucky and it's a prepared or something. So I ended up going with Snakebite, which after 3 turns does more damage than Predator, and so obviously less front-loaded, but helps with like boss fights and stuff. Really some cumulative scaling damage going there. We get this or that, and in this case I opt for this. And I keep interrupting myself as per usual, trying to talk about a relic, but then I start commentating the game. So we took Pale's Wing. And Pale's Wing was an option, for sure, but not one that I really wanted to play. Because I was like, oh, let's try some other stuff. And instead, I ended up taking Pale's Wing, mostly because of what I was talking about a bit earlier, of I overpick cards. And by taking Pale's Wing, it kind of forced me to really focus on just having a little bit of more thought that goes into the card choices and whether or not I'm going to really benefit by putting that card in my deck, or would I, in this case, with the extreme of, well, I get a relic, so it seems real worthwhile to just get a relic. So obviously, I took Pale's Wing, and I do think it helped me not take cards that were ultimately kind of mediocre. And I think you can use that mindset of, is it worth adding that card, right? Like maybe you're not going to get a relic in a regular run that doesn't have it, but like Flick Flack seems good. It's got Sly, draw a card. Hidden Daggers, discard, seems good. Sucker Punch adds weak, not bad. But realistically, you know, 2 of these are commons, and I'm not doing shifts. So I think without that, I might have taken one. I might have taken Flick Flack there. I was like, oh, AoE, right? But we have Haze. We have other ways to deal with that, and we block for so much. We're a little bit less reliant on AoE cards to get through a fight, even with AoE enemies, even with 3-4 exoskeletons, or the scrolls of death, or whatever, you know, like it's actually not that dire. But it's so easy to just be like, yeah, we're gonna take that card. Now this is cool. We get Snakebite, and this is, you know, the turn where we get the extra energy from Chandelier. We get Calculated, or Tactician, and we just get to play like all our cards, which is kind of nice. And because of Cloak Clasp, we get that nice full block. So yeah, really benefiting from so much defensive stuff. This is a guy this enemy will typically do a decent amount of damage to me on an average run. And here, again, we're just way overblocking. The interesting thing about things like Horn Cleat and Cloak Clasp and Sturdy Clamp is what we talked about earlier, where if you consider that, oh, that was cool. Got some good discards there. If you consider that we hold 10 extra block, up to maintain extra block from the Sturdy Clamp, then those relics get good on any off turn. They get way better. And we end up with like an anchor throughout the fight, which is incredibly strong. We got lucky with these combos of relics. But I think there's a lot of relics out there that have synergies we haven't all considered yet because we're still pretty new to the game. So you got 275 gold. I'm looking for where we're going to go to a shop and debating, do I need these potions? Or considering I basically don't seem to take damage anymore, I opt for 200 gold because that's what this event really is once you get to a shop. And we're motivated to go to a shop because we also have a meal ticket. So not only are we super defensive, we also have solved for healing, and we don't generally need to rest at rest sites, which is going to be nice because that means that we can, on average, upgrade more cards than we otherwise would have, like we just did there. Next up, we've got the Thorny Toad. Horned Toad? Thorny Toad? I don't know. Spiny Toad. That was close. Another fight that, normally gives me a little anxiety. Anxiety is probably not the right word. But I realize once again that we block for so much that it doesn't matter. We don't even need to play any block cards because of Cloak Clasp. I think we should have, because we would have brought more block to this turn. So slight mistake to make sure that you're using all your energy. Again here, I think I figured it out at this point of like, oh yeah, let's make sure we walk away with another 10. Not that I needed to play the defend that time, but you get the idea. And it helps. Every little bit helps. Now, this greed is being annoying, but because we have so much discard, I'm not finding it to be that impactful to our play. And that was part of the thought process early on, was can we get away with taking the greed? Can we be that greedy if we're going to play with all these discard mechanics? And it turned out to be the case that, yeah, we're pretty safe with what we're doing here. Murderman doing 42 damage. Wild. Now we get a Cunning Potion, but we're not going to take that. And we're also not going to be tricked into this Memento Mori that seemed really good. But we got Murder, so this is just kind of like more damage that we don't need. Murder solved our lack of scaling damage, as did the single Snakebite Plus. Both of those things really take care of getting us through some of the longer fights. And thankfully, the run starts to speed up from this point. Well, it already has, I would say, because we got that murder already. Red Mask, turn 1, we're even stronger on turn 1, which means we're even more likely to bring block from turn 1 to other turns. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here, for sure. We get to continue to play all of our discard cards, get more energy, which is awesome. Yeah, this is a fun deck. This is where the deck starts getting like, oh yeah, this is good. This is all good. Now, we didn't actually bring a whole bunch of block, as I mentioned we might, but didn't matter. We have Horn Cleat, so I don't actually care about that in that case. That's the other thing, because you've got Horn Cleat, you can better plan your turns around that. Now we're fighting the Chomper and the Tunneler, which again is normally a pretty tough fight at times, but we're having a mostly easy time with it. Although I think at some point I do end up taking a ton of damage. I don't remember why, but I'm pretty sure that happened. Mostly because I decide to kill the Tunneler in the wrong way. Killing him by poison is not the answer. I should have put that on the Chomper. And now I get punished because of it. Had I done it a little bit differently, we would not take really any of this damage. Because Chomper would already be dead, and we'd be saving the hard damage to break the shield and stun the Tunneler. So mistakes were made, but that's part of learning the game and the enemies and the skill sets. That's an important part of learning this game is losing. Like I said earlier how I died a bunch to some of the bosses, and I don't have any regrets about that. 50 damage murder, that's amazing. Because it highlighted exactly what I was doing wrong when I died. I'm like, phase 2 of the 3-headed monster guy, I clearly didn't have enough burst. I ran out of burst on the first turn. Miniature Tent, I have yet to take yet. But we're about to get the Wombo combo here So we're gonna throw our foul potions, get our 200 gold, which is amazing, by the way. I love that. And Tingsha, whenever you discard a card, deal 3 to a random enemy. And Letter Opener, which we talked about earlier, every 3 another murder. Every 3 turns, you deal 5. Or every 3 skills played, I should say, you deal 5. Guess what? Actually insane. So last card I'm going to take is that Piercing Wail that I missed out on Act 1. And especially with some retain, that's kind of nice. Enter your hole. Enchant a card with perfect fit. I didn't actually understand this when I took it. But we learned because we made that mistake. So we don't have to worry about ever making it again. It doesn't happen every time. For some reason, I thought every time you played it, it went on top of your discard pile. No, it's just every time you shuffle your deck, it goes back on top. And I don't know if that makes it innate or we just got that random luck. I don't know if luck is the right word. There's that Piercing Wail. Yes, doing work. But it was on top. So I'm actually I didn't notice that throughout the entire run. I'm gonna have to pay attention to that too the next fight. Someone remind me. But yeah, we're starting to do some big damage here pretty quickly thanks to Tingsha Letter Opener. And now, like, playing Calculated Gamble, even if we don't need to, is even more exciting because that Letter Opener damage is significant, right? So, yeah, every time you doing 5 to AoE, we've solved our AoE, actually. It worked out well that we didn't take Flick Flag, as much as I like Flick Flag. I was baiting real hard here, and I'm not sure why, because we have enough damage and energy from Chandelier to play every card. So that took me a sec to work out for whatever reason. But we got there in the end, and didn't matter who I hit with that strike because of the armor. So, yeah, this is where we just start kind of cruising. We can get a Ricochet plus, Blade Dance plus, but no, Acro. Obviously, Acro is good for everything with our deck. It has draw. In fact, I looked at the cheese and immediately was like, no, Acro. Which, by the way, really cool that it enchants one of these cards also. But it was clear that it was either Prepared Acro or Untouchable Acro. And I hadn't taken a new Sly card in a while. I'm like, well, we should probably take a new Sly card here. So that's what we do. And they're both commons, but like, they scale our deck and damage. The Acro hits Tingsha, it contributes to Pen Nib, and Murder gets +3 every time I play it. So it hits all of the things that we want to be doing. I guess the only thing we're missing is an after image, right? But that's okay. And there we go. There was a time where I had to play Sly straight up Ricochet. Remember, we're overblocking so much that Disintegration is an easy choice here. I was confident that he couldn't do any damage to me even now. And we discarded 2 strikes and did a strike worth of damage thanks to Tingsha. How cool is that? Calc Gamble, amazing. These Prepared, also amazing. That Tactician continues to come in clutch. And we're blocking 54 on this guy. So the fight is still long, I will say that. It's not as long as the Phantom fight, thankfully. But we're definitely not, like, super fast yet. But the extra chip damage from Tingsha and all of this draw with the Acros is going to really take the deck where we need to go. And it's great. We're cycling through it quickly. If you look at the deck size, it says 31. But after we get rid of the Ascender's Bane, we're now down to, 25 cards? Can't get rid of the Greed, unfortunately. But we're getting through, we have enough draw that we're getting through it pretty quickly. And look at that, Murder already does 47. With how much blocking, there's no reason not to play it. And again, I always forgot about Cloak Clasp at this point because we're blocking so much. So going into a turn with almost 10 full block against the boss, there's no concerns on taking another Disintegrate. And now we've got, he's doing 13 extra damage a turn, and I don't care at all. We're already full blocking for that. already. And I don't know why I was thinking so hard about this, because we have Prepared Plus and an Acro, so we can just keep running through the deck forever here. Tingsha, Pen Nib, or I keep wanting to call it Pen Nib, Letter Opener, and just cycle to get to Murder is how we win with this deck. And that Murder is now clearly over 60 damage for 3, which is pretty strong. And we're full blocking already, and Cloak Clasp. That's the theme here, is we just keep overblocking accidentally. So yeah, okay, 72, and we get to up that even more. I think. Oh, I guess it's 73 because we're not gonna draw anymore. But that's, I mean, that card has scaled nicely, and that's getting us into, if we were fighting. Oh well, I guess in this case we want to wait, because I realize now that this was where we got to the point where if I just waited, I guaranteed Murder kill in the next turn or two. Of course he heals, which is kind of frustrating, but it didn't matter. It just kind of delayed the fight slightly, so we can keep waiting a turn here and there. There is an interesting thing though with this game where I think, actually, you know what? I think it does happen in the original as well, where if you kill by poison, there are some mechanics that still hit you after the fact. So like that Disintegrate, I just chose it again. We're up to 21 Disintegrate. I've never seen that on any of my fights yet. But we do 88, which kills. But I didn't full block for the first time in the entire fight. We take 6 here. There's probably a way to avoid that. I didn't really think about it that hard. It didn't matter. And there's that after image. I thought about Burst too. Like, Burst is pretty good. Definitely not a sacrifice turn here. Both of these cards add to the deck. They make the deck better. Alright, we get Tanks here. Tanks lets us either gain energy at the start of a turn, but your powers cost more. This has killed me before, so with 4 powers that are 1 cost otherwise, I just opted against this one. Didn't seem that important. I have yet to take Maul. I'm sure I will at some point. I just haven't got there yet. And then try Boomerang, which gives 3 attacks, double damage. And this is where we talk about the enchant. Obviously, Murder is amazing. Ricochet is amazing. And Neutralize, I'm always playing for free. So you might as well. I'd rather do that than a strike. It's basically, often I'm discarding strikes, and I don't want to be incentivized to play it. But it's totally cool being incentivized to play a 0-cost Neutralize that adds weak, to me anyway. And we're on to Act 3, and we've got the test subject is the final boss for this act, which again killed me on the Regent a couple of times in a row. That was brutal. I was like, oh wow, oh man, it was such a good run too. Maybe I'll still post one of them and surprise people by losing at the very end. That's one way to do it for sure. So anyway, we're up to the Scrolls, who I generally don't struggle with too much. But, there are going to be turns like this where we don't get a whole lot of block. Didn't matter because we got Piercing Whale. Sorry, this turn we did end up getting a whole lot of block. I do think there's a turn that I don't, though. Am I right? Or maybe I'm thinking of a different fight on a different character. I've played a lot of Spire lately. Maybe that's the only problem here with things. So Act 3 is kind of interesting because, in Spire 1, there were always complaints. Not complaints, but just if you made it to Act 3, you were probably guaranteed to make it to the final boss. I don't feel that's the case in Spire 2. I've struggled quite a bit in some instances to get there. So this is, I think, much better laid out and balanced for the late game in terms of adding continued challenge. These guys, not really the scariest at the beginning of the fight, but I have definitely lost max HP a few times. I just did here, in fact. It's an interesting mechanic that I don't think is that big of a deal. It's never that punishing, but could make a difference. Another Blur Plus doesn't sound terrible. I do like Blur, but this is, again, where I'm kind of like, well, I'm carrying so much block over. Does it really improve my deck more than half of a Relic? The answer obviously was no there, especially with one Blur that already I can draw multiple times, or maybe not multiple times a turn, but multiple times in, say, 3 turns. with all the draw that we've got, it's quite good. Now these guys are not scary at all, ever, I feel. I wonder how few people have died to this fight. They scale slowly, and it's pretty clear how to get through it with attacking the guy in the front, who is, easy to take out, and then the guy in the back. There's just a lot of tools to deal with him. You can obviously piercing wail, or their poison, obviously for silent, is going to go a long way against that guy. Piercing wail I could have kept. I guess I did keep. I thought I went with calculated gamble there. But it just doesn't matter. I mean, piercing wail destroys this guy. I do miss crippling cloud a little bit. I don't believe it exists in this game. I guess I could check the compendium, but I don't recall seeing it yet. But yeah, this, again, easy fight for this one. The back half of Act 3 is where it gets really difficult really quickly, with how some of the enemies scale and things. Another haze, another snake bite, precise cut plus. Precise cut plus never being played. We get more block with that basin of water thing, because if we're just playing poison and scrolling through the deck there, we're just going to add more block, which is crazy. So now we're doing damage by discarding and playing skills and gaining extra block on top of just naturally gaining extra block by playing skills. Very odd. Again, this is a turn where it's like, maybe I could have went for more block, but since I have Horn Cleat, completely unnecessary. Man, I do love... this Sly is so strong. So strong. It's just, every time I use it here, I'm reminded, like, wow. That just compounds damage so quickly. And playing expensive cards for free. Oh, Ricochet, 6x4. There it is. It just feels fun. The entire time I was playing... There's something about playing a deck like this where you feel better than you are, most likely. I don't think I'm that amazing of a Slay the Spire player or anything like that. But because you click so many cards and you're constantly cycling through, you're just like, oh, look, I'm amazing. This is amazing. Murder doing 68 on first play through the deck, by the way. Blade of Ink this turn, when you play attack, gain 2 strength. Not that useful. Definitely good for Shiv decks, and we're not a Shiv deck here. So we'll move on. We get the Grave of the Forgotten, and we could take a decay. And by doing that, we can keep retain on a skill, which at first I'm like, I don't know. How many skills do I have? And then I look, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Oh my goodness. This is amazing. Of course I'm taking this. I have, I think, 1, maybe 2 cards that I can play this on at all. I think I've only ever taken Forgotten Soul here. And we're in the first situation where I'm looking at this going like, calculated gamble exhausting and upgrading to retain. This is maybe the best choice ever. Piercing Wail wouldn't have been terrible, by the way. But obviously in this case, I'm so defensive it doesn't even matter. We're going to lose 11 here for a random relic. Do we get more defensiveness? No, we get a bag of prep, which is even better. That's good for murder. That's good for a lot of stuff. That just helps us start discarding faster and sooner. So yeah, this is a pretty amazing deck, and we get rid of the decay immediately. There's no reason to hold that on or hold on to that, but we could have actually held on to that for a while. That would have been fairly safe with how much we're discarding, but it does slow us down. There's going to be the random draw where we get 3 curses out of 5 cards and just cry ourselves to sleep, as we hope that Sturdy Clamp and Cloak Clasp carry us through. But instead, we don't need to do that, and we now have a full hand turn 1, thanks to Bag of Prep, and it is quite amazing. So, like, there's all these cards I could play, but are any of them better than playing Calculated Gamble over and over and over? I don't know. I mean, okay, maybe. Acrobatics is good for sure, but how many cards do I have? I think I'm counting here. We have 9 cards. Okay, there we go. Now we get to play the benefit of all this stuff. And Calc Gamble with Tactician, you love to see it. You love to see it. We get that after image, which draws more aggro, more sly, more neutralize. these guys don't stand a chance. And I don't think we've even seen Murder yet. I forgot that I also already played Well-Laid Plans, which is fantastic. Very strong card. You know, that might have been a card that I should have upgraded over really anything else this game, but I never do. And I also never feel like it mattered, because the one card that we kept almost always was a block card or a kill card, right? Like the next time we played, the enemy's dead. So ended up feeling fine not upgrading that, which is not usually the case. All right, we get Anticipate Plus, which I just never take. So I took it. We got to continue to experiment. I definitely made the deck worse by taking that card. I know it. But I did want to give it a shot. Now, I'm also remembering, I think at this point, maybe it was an earlier fight, that we have, or no, we just got it, that we have Akabeko, and we could play things like the Neutralize, but there will be some fights where we get the opportunity, potentially, to play Ricochet. And that would be amazing with Akabeko when it already does double damage. I don't think that Akabeko doubles the double damage. I think that already happened when, yeah, if you look at it, the card language actually changes. But this is where I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, that would be nice to play. So we could Ricochet, but Murder also seems really good. And we could just hold on to it if we had played Well-Laid Plans. I think if I did the math there, Murder would have done more damage. I'm not really sure. We'd have to go back and check the books. But it's fine. This guy overall is like a general deck check fight, where can you deal with a bunch of burns and hand clog, or does it wreck you when he does some pretty major damage? But again, for this deck, the chip damage is really starting to show here, and with the Sly cards upgraded, well, at least that one, Ricochet, not even upgraded. It's not upgraded. It just does double damage. We're seeing the power continually. This is where I see Anticipate. I'm like, I mean, maybe it helped a little bit. I guess it helped. It did help. But like generally, that might be the best use case that I had of it this entire time. Murder doing 116, by the way. Insane. A third of this guy's health. And yeah, we're in good shape at this point. We just have to make it through, I think, one more turn. Usually I don't think this guy has killed me yet. There will be a time, for sure. But it hasn't happened yet. And yeah, he's not that tough. So we get a Snecko Skull, which is whatever, not really that great. Skewer Plus, which could be a 0-cost draw 1 if we don't play, or we play last. Generally not going to be that meaningful, I don't think. And we get a upgrade on the other footwork. So we're kind of closing up on the fight here. We have to make a card. I was debating between a power and a skill. The skill makes a little bit more sense because of the letter opener. And gaining energy seems great. 8 block, gain 2 for 1. That's actually a good card. Maybe draw would have been slightly better, but the extra energy later in the turns will be really nice to have. Opt for the store here at the end. We could take one more footwork. I mean, Master of Strategy would have been good, but we're overblocking so much that I think it's more important to have some fun here and try more stuff. So we're going to go with Panache. Yes. You love to see it. Maybe that's going to be in the thumbnail. I don't know. Well, you already know because you've seen it, but I haven't decided yet. The man behind the curtain. What will it be? So we get one more upgrade here. We're at max life, obviously, max health, so no reason not to upgrade something. After Image seems really good to start with because we're playing so many cards and it draws one. You know, the only other thing is it would have been nice to get like an energy upgrade. But Prepare Plus is just good. It's what we're doing. It continues. We got After Image anyway, Never Punish. And Murder, you know, is what we want to scale here for Phase 2 and 3. After, you know, I keep learning that I need to be able to burst through on Phase 2. I'm just realizing now, you can see his other heads. I just thought that was his weird clavicles or something, but no, it's you can see him. So phase one, this guy adds Enrage, where kind of like Gremlin Knob. I guess he's a chip off the old Gremlin Knob. He tends to, or he doesn't tend to. He does add Strength every time you play a skill. But back to what we've been saying a million times here is we just block so much it doesn't matter. And this footwork, this million cards that we have to play, makes us almost full block here, but doesn't matter. Dies to poison. So we're on a phase two. Already, Murder is going to be doing some serious damage once we get back to it because we've gone through the deck. And Calculated Gamble is amazing, as always. But Piercing Well is even better on a turn like this. So we're going to... wait a second. What? Oh, I'm out of control. We go straight to Murder. You know, if you're already full blocking, why play Piercing Will? You know, that actually, in hindsight, I don't know if Piercing Will was a good take. I think I used it once in a meaningful, not take damage way this entire run. So, as I'm thinking about it, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, phase two down. This was the one that has been scary in other runs for me. And look at that. That card doesn't exhaust, by the way. Actually insane. I probably should have retained that one, but no, we went with Dash instead. So now we had 65 block at the end of that turn. We get to retain 10, yay. And he's doing another 10 by 3. So maybe now's our chance to play Piercing Well, if we can get back to it. And funny turn where I actually don't draw into more cards to keep moving. But doesn't matter because we still full block thank you to Cloak Clasp again. And this fight is, despite him being intangible, it's almost over. Oh wait, he's not intangible this turn. That was last turn. Yeah, I mean this is just this is what Silent can look like with discard. Now, 100% we got a little lucky with the relics. Tingsha Letter Opener is an insane combo, and Murder is really carrying us. Unfortunately for us, it only does 1 damage this turn. But next turn, it's going to gain minimally 10 damage because it's 2 for 1. And yeah, 186 will take us to the close screen here. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Silent is a lot of fun to play. I'm enjoying her. I think she's the only character that I haven't lost on. But we'll see you in the next one. Take care.